Hello and welcome to Hobby Days. In this video I'll be showing you how to make my frog keychain. I have a link to the free pattern in the description below for you to follow along. If at any point you come across something that you've never done before, I'll put the link to the tutorial for each of the techniques needed in the top right corner of the video. So we're going to begin by doing 6 stitches in a magic circle. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and pull the magic circle closed. And for round 2, I'm going to increase 6 times. So work 2 stitches into each stitch around, which will give us 12 stitches at the end of this round. There's 1, and 2 into this stitch. And if you've seen any of my videos, you'll know I'm a huge fan of stitch markers, and even after years of experience it can be very easy to lose track of where you are. So we're just about halfway round. Makes 6, 7, and 8. 9, 10, and the last 2, 11, and 12. Okay, so for round 3 we're going to work 1 single stitch followed by an increase. There's the first one, followed by an increase. Not forgetting the stitch marker. There's the second one, single followed by an increase. And if you just pause the video at this point to complete the round, and I'll see you at round 4. For round 4 we're going to work 2 single stitches followed by an increase. There's 1, and 2, followed by an increase. And we're going to do that another 5 times, and by the end of this round we'll have 24 stitches. And if you just pause the video at this point to complete the round, Round 5, we're going to work 3 single stitches followed by an increase 6 times, 2 and 3, followed by an increase, 1, 2, 3, and another increase, and pause the video to complete this round. And for round 6, we're going to work 4 single stitches followed by an increase, 2, 3, 4, and an increase, followed by 4, and pause the video to complete this round. So now we're going to do rounds 7 to 9, a single stitch all the way round for 3 rounds. Now this is where it's very important to use a stitch marker so that you don't lose track of where you are. So pause the video now to finish round 7 to 9. Now we're on to round 10, where we're going to work 4 single stitches followed by a decrease. I've put the link to how to do a decrease in the top right corner. 3, 4, 5, followed by a decrease, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and another decrease, and if you just pause the video at this point to complete the round, and I'll show you how to do round 11. So round 11 is a single stitch in each of the 30 stitches. Round 12 is 3 single stitches followed by a decrease, so I've done my 3 followed by a decrease, and 1, 2, 3, and another decrease. Oops, got myself in a bit of a mess there. Let's try that again. So pause the video here, finish round 12, and round 13 is one single stitch in each of the 24 stitches. And pause the video to complete round 13. For round 14, we're going to do 2 single stitches followed by a decrease, and 1, 2, 3. So there's my first decrease, and 1, 2, and a decrease. And after completing round 14, we're going to add some stuffing. And it says on the pattern, begin to stuff and continue to stuff as you go. It's important to pull the stuffing apart so that you don't get lumps. And just add some stuffing a bit at a time, pushing it down the sides. It's worth taking your time with this to prevent any lumps and bumps. We definitely need more in here. I'm going to speed things up a little. Now you don't want to fill it right to the top, because as you continue to work, you can pull the stuffing through the stitches with your crochet hook. So I've stuffed to about 3 rounds from the top. And I'm going to work round 15, which is a single stitch in each of the 18 stitches. So now we're going to add some more stuffing, and we'll continue to add more stuffing after each round. Okay, so round 16, we're going to work 1 single stitch followed by a decrease 6 times, and at the end of this round we should have 12 stitches. So now we're going to finish stuffing just before the last round. So we're on to the final round, round 17. We're going to decrease 6 times, which will take us from 12 stitches down to 6. You'll notice I'm not using the stitch marker for this round because I find it does get in the way. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6. Fasten off. We pull up a loop and we're going to make this nice and long. Cut it just here and pull the working yarn out like so. And we're not going to do anything else with that for now. We're going to use that tail later on to attach the keychain. So now I'm going to show you how to make the eyes. It comes in 2 parts and we'll start with the eyeball. So you're going to work 6 stitches in a magic circle in the same way we did for the head, but it's important that you don't close the magic circle. Let me speed this up and I'll show you what I mean. So here we are, we're going to pull the tail to close the circle, and normally we want to close that hole right up so you can't see it at all. But for this pattern, I found that not pulling the circle all the way closed makes it a lot easier to insert the eye later on. So for round 2, we're going to increase in each of the 6 stitches for a total of 12 stitches. So there's one, and another in the same stitch. Round 3 and 4, we're going to work 1 stitch in each of the stitches for 2 rounds. And we're now going to insert the safety eye. So we can now pull the tail of the magic circle to close it up even more. I think it might be easier to put the back on if I turn it inside out here. Now these can be really quite difficult to put on, but that's what we want. We don't want the backs to come off. Okay, so now we're going to work round 5, decrease 3 times. There's 1. And 2. Three. And I stop at this point because I want to add some stuffing. Let's just trim that tail a little bit. And we can poke that inside. Now add some stuffing. It's not going to take very much at all. In fact, that might be a bit too much. Let's give it a go. You can use whatever you like to get that stuffing in there. It's a bit fiddly. There we go, that should just about do it. Now we just need to finish the last 3 decreases. There's 1. Two. And the last one. You see I keep pushing the the stuffing out of the way so I don't pull it, so it doesn't get tangled up in the stitches. And 3. Fasten off, so pull that stitch up. Snip it off here. And now to finish it off, we're going to sew through the front loop only of each of those 6 stitches. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Give it a nice pull, close that up, and we're going to sew through the eye. So when it says weaving the end on the pattern, you're going to sew through the eye, through that centre, right through the centre of the magic circle. And snip off the excess, and there we have an eyeball. So now we need an eyelid. So for round 1 we're going to work 6 stitches in a magic circle. And pull this all the way closed on this one. Round 2, increase 6 times all the way around. And just pause the video to complete the round. Rounds 3 to 5, a single stitch all the way around for 3 rounds. Don't forget your stitch marker. And fasten off, leaving a long tail. That's probably a bit more than we need. Let's just close up that magic circle. I don't want that hole in the back of the eyelid there, so pull it nice and tight. That's better. Get that out of the way, tuck it in there. We don't need this anymore. And now put the eyeball into the eyelid. It'll be nice and tight, but that's what we want. Squeeze it in there. Lovely. That looks great. And now to secure the eyeball, we're going to use this tail. So we're going to go through this stitch to the left, out through the other side. Don't pull it too tight because it'll squash the eyeball. And now through the stitch to the right, the other side of the safety eye, and back out through the other side. Okay, so now we're going to attach the eyes to the head. In the pattern you'll see exactly where I placed my eyes, but it's a good idea to hold parts in place to be sure that you're happy with the position. So I'll place my first pin there, and we need to sew all the way to the back of the eye. So that's going to finish around about there. So I've placed my first pin 5 rounds down from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, between 5 and 6. Just check that that looks okay. Yes, I'm happy with that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, there's between 5 and 6. And now it's easy to match up with the other side. We're going to put the back pin in the same position as the other one. So I'm going to count back 1, 2, 3, 4, just there. And that's where we're going to sew the eyes on. Now normally we would use this tail to attach parts, but if you've seen any of my videos, you'll know that I actually cut a new piece of yarn and then use these tails for extra stability. So I've cut a piece about 16 inches, and we're going to begin by sewing through the bottom of the head and up to the front pin. Leaving a tail long enough to sew off at the end. That's good. And I'm going to sew through this stitch where the tail is. Across through there. Move that tail out of the way. And now through the head, working back towards the second pin. So just about here. And I'm working in a diagonal. There we go. And now through the next stitch of the eye. Everything's still a bit loose at the moment, but don't worry about that. Give that a pull. And make a diagonal towards that pin again. Just about there. That's good. Through the eye. And we're almost there. And really start to pull this quite tight now. And our last stitch through the head, let's take the pin out. Make things easier. Let's just have a look at that. Oh yeah, that looks great. Okay, so just going to finish off by going through this, the round before the magic circle that we made, just underneath that magic circle. Pull it nice and tight. And sew through the head. Back out through the same stitch that we started. Just like that. Now pull these tails again to make sure everything's nice and tight. Now just check that you're happy with the positioning, because if you need to undo it and start again, this is the best time to do it. Once you've tied it off, it's very difficult to get it off. We're going to tie off these ends in a double knot. And then weave in the ends. So go through that same stitch again. And trim off the excess. Just give this a bit of a reshape. That hole will disappear. There you go. Trim off the excess. So pause the video now to attach your second eye, and I'll show you what to do with this tail. So instead of using these tails to attach the eye to the head, I'm going to use them for extra stability. So I'm going to sew through the stitch next to the tail, just there, and out through the bottom of the head. You see I can pull it now to make sure the eyes are in the position I want them. Do the same with the other one. Go through the stitch next to the tail, out through the same stitch as the other one. Reshape the head. Tie in a double knot. Weave in the ends. And trim off the excess. So with the face detail, you're going to use pins to determine the expression that you'd like. I'm going to do a cute little smile. So place the first pin just off centre. and we're going to go 2 rounds up, round about there, 3 stitches apart, and then to complete it we're going to put 1 in the round above, just off to the left, 1 in the round below, just off to the right. That looks good. I'm going to cut a piece of black yarn or thread about 16 inches, and we're going to sew through the bottom of the head out through the first pin, not forgetting to leave a tail to tie off later. Through the middle pin, let me just move this one out of the way so you can see, and through the top one just there. Look, that looks cute already. And we're going to finish off by going through this bottom one here, all the way through the head and back through the same stitch that we started. Now don't pull it too tight. We need to reshape the head to make sure the stuffing is evenly distributed. That looks good. And now we can pull these ends just to tighten that mouth up a little. Just keep an eye on what you're doing, don't pull it too tight. Do the same with the other one. Yes, that looks good. Okay, and to finish off, tying a double knot. And weaving the ends. And trim off the excess. So now all we need to do is attach the keychain. We're going to use the tail that we left when making the head. We're going to begin by going through the front loop of each of the 6 stitches, as we normally would if we were closing up this hole. And now we're going to sew through this bottom chain. Through the top of the head just here. Back out through the other side. And then continue to sew several times from the front to the back or the back to the front. Until we're happy that that's nice and secure. Just do a couple more. I'm going to go through side to side as well, just to be sure. And let's make a knot here. Pull that nice and tight. I'm going to go through the centre of that magic circle, weave in the end, and trim off the excess. And there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed making my frog keychain. If you have, please feel free to share the link to the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe to see more, or even leave a comment. And I will see you next time.